Well, sir, it's late afternoon as we join our friends at the small house halfway up in the next block now. Here on the front porch, we find Mrs. Victor Gook and young Mr. Rush Gook. Mother and son are seated side by side in the swing, interestedly watching the approaching figure of Mr. Victor Gook, who's briskly striding along Virginia Avenue's neat concrete sidewalk. Listen.
Your father feels jolly about something.
You can tell by his elastic step, huh?
Yeah, and that kind of halfway smug look on his face.
Hi-ho-ho, hi-ho-ho.
Hi. See how jolly he feels?
Maybe you got a raise in his pay.
Yeah.
Hello, Sadie. Hello, Rush.
This is private property. Better get off the grass before we sick the bulldog on you.
Quit leaning on a person, Rush. Shove over. This porch swing is plenty big enough for two people.
Was there a beautiful woman, heavily veiled and greatly agitated, come past here a few minutes ago looking for me?
Yeah. Will you move over?
I'm making room for Gov.
We'll sit on the railing. Too hot a day to be squeezed to a pulp.
Hello, Sadie. Hello, Rush.
Hi.
Where is Pete and Bill and Oscar and Leroy and Harry? Where's Florence and Grace and Edith and Belle and Josephine?
You get a raise in your pay, Gov?
No, why?
You're in such excellent spirits.
I'm in excellent spirits because my soul is a buttercup which has caught the liquid sunshine in its chalice. Move over and let me sit down before I break both your legs.
Get up, Rush, and take a seat on the railing. Not space for three people in this swing.
Hello, Sadie.
Hello. Mailman brought another done from Kleberger this afternoon.
Hello, Sadie.
What's making you feel so good?
I feel good because my life is an open book on whose snowy pages is written a beautiful story of noble deeds. Tobacco juice, old Stone Brews. Before I forget it, I better tell you you're supposed to telephone Rooster Davis.
What for?
I have no idea. I bumped into Rooster down on Division Street, and he told me to tell you to call him without delay. I gathered it was a matter of immediate and vital importance.
When's he want me to call him?
At once.
Well, how can I do that if he's down on Division Street? Has he got a magic telephone with him? Has he got a telephone with half a mile of cord attached to it?
I have delivered the message, and my interest in the affair is concluded. You may telephone Rooster or not telephone Rooster, just as you choose.
If it's so important, he can telephone me.
Hello, Sadie.
What's got into you today?
I'm pleased with myself and the world.
Why?
Well, the thing that gives me the keenest pleasure is the anticipation of tomorrow's newspaper.
Tomorrow's newspaper?
I won't be the least bit astonished if tomorrow's newspaper carries a lengthy article concerning the activities of Mr. Victor Rodney Gook, the big slob from Virginia Avenue.
They're going to print something about you?
I think it likely.
About your trip, Gov?
You hit the nail square on the head, Sawhorse, about my trip. Here's what happened, kiddo. I was sitting in my office this afternoon. By the way, you know Ed Griefer?
I know Olive Griefer. Olive's the girl there in Hamilton's that mails out.
She's Ed's sister. Ed's on the newspaper.
Reporter, ain't he?
Yeah. Also, he's a sky brother in the sacred stars of the Milky Way. Good fella, Ed. Well, to get back to what I started to say, I was sitting in my office this afternoon, and the phone rang, and here was old Ed. What's this I hear about you roaming around the North American continent last week, Gook, he says. I don't know, Ed, I says. What did you hear? They tell me you and your boss took a business trip down south, he says. That's correct, I says. Where all'd you go, he says. Well, I started to tell him and hadn't more'n said about 9 words, and in come Miss Gregg with some hurry-up papers to okay. So I told Ed I'd call him back later and hung up.
I understand Olive Griefer earns a wonderful salary there in Hamilton's. Who was it telling me? Miss Lawrence?
I don't know. Listen, let me go ahead with this as long as I got it in my teeth in it. After I finished the work Miss Gregg brought in, I reached for the telephone intending to call Ed back. And then I thought, what the heck? I'll write down the highlights of my trip. See, Stu?
Huh.
Be doing Ed a favor because he wants stuff for his paper.
Huh.
So I picked up a pencil and started to scribble, and by gosh, I was inspired. Wrote and wrote and wrote. You know how many sheets I filled?
No.
15.
Lance.
15 sheets I filled. Of course, it only made 6 sheets after it was typewritten.
Had it typewritten and everything, huh?
Sure. Took Miss Gregg almost 2 hours.
Hmm?
Took Miss Gregg almost 2 hours to copy off on her machine what I dashed off out of my head in less than 40 minutes.
Lance.
I was inspired. No getting around it. Words just flew from that pencil.
What all you say, Gov?
Oh, lots of stuff. Told about Kentucky, told about Indiana, told about Ohio. And after Miss Gregg had my manuscript all neatly typed, I put it in an envelope and sent the office boy over to Ed with it. Ed'd be delighted. He called me up hoping to get a paragraph or so of news, and by George, I come through with a whole doggone article. If I can recall any of the florid phrases and sweeping sentences, I'll quote them for you. I was inspired. Let's see, I said something about... Oh, listen. Kentucky is the land of the red sun, the blue grass, and the white cotton. Red, white, and blue, the colors of the flag that flies over the greatest nation on the face of the earth.
Hey.
Not altogether rotten for an amateur, huh?
Very nice.
And then I said something about Indiana. Bordering Illinois on the east is a state of hills as well as plains. Many important industries find their home, and the rural sections are a delight to the traveler's eye. Dozens of large cities adorn Indiana's broad terrain. We have LaPorte, Terre Haute, Elkhart, and so on and so forth. I flatter myself.
Walter,
Yeah.
they get an enormous big thrill out of junk like that.
Junk?
You know what I mean. They like to tell Carberry people about Sister Sadie's man that has his own office. Shirts to work every day of the world.
Hey, listen to what I said about Ohio. Ohio is north of Pennsylvania and south of Michigan. Native Ohioans refer to their commonwealth as the Hoosier State.
That's a mistake.
What is?
Ohio ain't the Hoosier State. Indiana's the Hoosier State.
No.
Ohio's the Buckeye State. Sure.
Well, if it's wrong, they can fix it there in the newspaper. Native Ohioans refer to... And this affectionate...
Telephone rush.
Telephone.
Yeah,
I never heard it.
I did. Go answer it. Probably.
I like the rhythm of that sentence. Ohio is north of Kentucky, east of Indiana, west of Pennsylvania, and south of Michigan.
Is that very newsy?
Well, sure.
Don't people already appreciate where Ohio is?
No.
Oh, if you were talking about little dinky Ohio, just a tiny ways off. Lands, I should think.
I've got much that same sentence structure in my treatment of Kentucky. Kentucky, east of Missouri, north of Tennessee, west of the Virginias, and south of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. The Mississippi River washes Kentucky's shores, as does the silver streams, and so on and so forth. It's not at all probable that my article will be reprinted by both the Lodge Magazine and the Kitchenware Dealers Quarterly.
Huh?
Of course, I'm not the kind of a bird that's thirsty for notoriety, but it don't hurt a fella any to appear in the public eye. Here's something else I say about Indiana. South of Michigan, west of Ohio, and north of Kentucky. Native Indianans love to refer to their commonwealth as the Gopher State. And this affectionate
Who was
nickname...
that, Brewster?
No.
Not anybody for me.
No, it was Mr. Griefer.
Indiana is east of Illinois, south...
Vic, that was your Mr. Griefer.
Griefer? Ed? On the phone?
Yeah.
Well, why the heck didn't you
He
holler?
hung up. He hung up.
Hung up? Rush, what kind of half-wit business
Well, he didn't
is...
want to talk to you, Gov.
Didn't want to talk to me?
He was kind of mad.
What the heck is this now?
He says, who does your old man think he is? Marco Polo discovering a new route to the West Indies? He says, tell your father and newspaper readers already know Indiana is east of Illinois.
Go ahead.
He says, when we want to print first-grade geography textbooks, we'll give your father first crack at it.
Proceed.
He says, I'd passed on your information about Ohio being north of Kentucky to the city editor, only I was afraid he wouldn't survive the shock of such a revelation.
Proceed.
Then he hung up. There is going to be something about you in the paper, though, Gov.
What?
V.R. Gook of this city was absent on business last week. V.R. Gook of this city was absent on business last week.
Which concludes another brief interlude at the small house halfway up in the next block.